One of the fun things, I think, for many of you as cattle producers, as you travel around the United States, and I certainly know I fall in that category as well, is to find some of these great restaurants that we're so proud that they take the ownership in serving beef that they do. And we're fortunate as a Certified Angus Beef brand, your brand, to be able to license many of them very successfully. One of the things that we have started doing is, and some of you would listen to Tracy Erickson share that, is tie a lot of the production practices that you do and bring those folks to your operations to learn what you do as cow-calf producers, seed stock producers, feedlot operators, and even see that packing plant that they usually come away very impressed with. Rick has been one of those individuals that has worked very closely with our company. He's been on a ranch. He has been in some of our advertising programs that Tracy shared, and has been a part of learning more about this industry. And the way that we identify or want to work with folks like him and many of his colleagues is people interested in quality, people interested in bringing a quality product to the consuming public in that restaurant. Rick Rosser's specific background is he was the executive chef at the Saltgrass Steakhouses. Now, depending on what part of the United States you live in, if you live in Texas, you are well aware of Saltgrass Steakhouses. There are a few in Colorado, a few in Oklahoma, but Rick basically was the mastermind behind the type of quality program. He served in that capacity up until August, when he became the executive chef for a group called Southwest Energy. And what Rick is going to share is his passion that he has for quality and the things that are so important to him from a standpoint of eating a quality eating experience. And so, Rick, if you'll join me here on stage, we'll look forward to having your comments shared with our audience today.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so let's talk first about Certified Angus beef and how I relate to your world. First and foremost, my name is Rick Rosser. Like I was introduced, I was the concept executive chef of Saltgrass Steakhouse. I also managed a group of restaurants called Claim Jumpers, which is on the West Coast. Altogether, I managed about 100 restaurants, and in those 100 restaurants, we served in Saltgrass specifically Certified Angus beef. Through my hands, and I by no means am trying to make myself out to be a hero, because you're totally the heroes in my eyes, is I ran through about 140,000 head of Certified Angus beef cattle a year. To me, that's a massive number. I mean, I don't know how many ranchers out there that can equal to, but 140,000 head of cattle. We would use 18-wheelers of jalapenos in a year. I would use more potatoes than I can count, but I can tell you that it looks similar to a football field, 3 stories tall, and 3 of them. And our major function was to produce a great quality steak. How did we do that? To me, it's as simple as just saying Certified Angus beef, and I'm not trying to sell you anything that you don't already know, else you wouldn't be here. But I would tell you that Saltgrass Steakhouse started serving Certified Angus beef in the late 80s. And our customer complaint level from that point, which means when you came and you ate a steak and you didn't like it, or it had too much gristle, or it was too fatty, that's what we would call a customer complaint. That dropped so significantly when we changed to Certified Angus beef, it's not even comparable to where we were the year beforehand. When we get a customer complaint now, it's similar to talking about, well, we thought the ribeye was too fatty. You're never going to hear something about, to me, I never hear anything about a sirloin. I never hear anything about a strip loin because they're so good. And then tenderloin, all right? So 140,000 head of cattle, and all I worry about is a little fat in a steak. Every time I do a talk or I talk to people and they ask, why is Saltgrass Steakhouse so good? What do you do to the steaks? Do you marinate them? What do you put on them? It's very simple. It really is. We start out with a simple product that is great. And all we do is we put it on the grill. I have several little buzzwords that I like to use, but one of the ones I'm most passionate about, I didn't even come up with. I have a cook that I worked with for 10 years, quite honestly, and he told me, after he came back from a certified Angus beef education seminar, he said, it takes those cowboys, you're all cowboys to them, not ranchers, not farmers, you're all cowboys. It takes these cowboys 22 months to give us this steak. 22 months, that's specs. And we have 10 minutes to make sure it gets put out in the proper way and being respectful to the cowboys. And to me, that it doesn't get our job is not any better defined than what Jose said on that day. You work on your 22 months, and I'm going to work on my 10 minutes. And I'm going to guarantee you that my cooks and the people that I talk to are always going to work on their 10 minutes. All right? Pretty soon they're going to show some pictures on the screen. And I want you to understand that every picture that's on there either represents who I am as a chef for you, or the people that cook your food at my restaurants and prepare certified Angus beef. It's amazing to me how you can take people from all walks of life, and trust me, I see all of them. Not only do I see the cowboy hats, but I see the taco hats of my Hispanic cooks, or I see the Africans that come in and cook our steaks, or Hondurans or Ecuadorians, and they all understand certified Angus beef. And I tell you what, if you have a certified Angus beef hat, you better have enough for everybody, because everybody wants to wear it. When you doubt, and look, I fully understand the past 2 years of the struggles I think that you've had with whether it be drought, whether it be price of corn, and you're gonna ask yourself, hey, who is this guy? He wears a starched white chef coat. How does he know our problems? Ooh, hold on, that's Meemaw right there. And I wanted to make sure you understand that's Meemaw. She is the reason the way I am today. When I told her last week that I was going to be talking to y'all, all she was concerned about was, it wasn't that one with my hair that was bad, was it? So, Meemaw is the reason I am the way I am, and my mother, of course, but everything I do is out of confidence of what I can do, and it's easy to do that when I have certified Angus beef and knowing you people in the audience. I've been lucky enough to travel all the way from Montana to Hereford, Texas with the certified Angus beef name. 2 years ago, I guess, I got to go to the Sitz Ranch, hang out in the mountains, horrible view. Lovely family, horrible view of the mountains, He and his brother took care of us. I think there was 9 or 10 chefs. You see our picture. We're the ones that are drinking wine on a mountaintop at a table. I did that for you, okay? That was all for y'all, I promise. My lovely wife, can't stop without saying hello to her and everything that she does. She will tell people that the certified Angus beef people and the Angus people that she has met are some of the top quality people that we've met in our life. I mean, I can't... Cooked an alligator last week. That got weird, but anyway. You're just good people. You start out, you're blessed. And I'm blessed to be able to represent your brand. But we went from the Sitz Ranch all the way to the Olsons in Hereford. I've been lucky enough to go to their property probably 2 or 3 times, I think. Each time I have her fabulous cornbread that she grinds herself. She cares about those things. And that translates into what we do. All right, or what you do and what I do. Saltgrass Steakhouse and the new company I'm with, I was asked last night, obviously I've been around with certified Angus beef and with the Angus people, how does my new world, how does CAB relate in my new world? And, it was a big deal for me to stop being chef of 100 restaurants for certified, or really with certified Angus beef. And I was concerned about, not getting to see you, because quite honestly, talking to you empowers people like me. It connects us. Time and time again, chefs are asked, what is sustainable? Are you being green? I can't imagine it being any better than being able to go, am I green? Yeah, I just got done talking to X, Y, or Z. And, I know what is going on with cattle right now. I understand that you're on the second cut of your hay field. Now, are there a lot of chefs that's like that? I don't know, but I know that we're becoming more and more educated on your plights, because it benefits us to understand those things. All right? I was both lucky and unlucky enough, probably 5 years ago, to do a meat tasting. And I would tell you, I have done my fair share of meat tastings, and quite honestly, it's always pleasant when somebody goes, hey, try this certified Angus beef steak, or try this steak, or whatever. But I wanted to understand, I wanted to not debunk, but I wanted to make sure I wasn't following the wrong path with the Angus program and certified Angus beef, okay? So I doubted. It was my first trip. We actually went to Kansas and Nebraska. We did a feedlot tour, and I saw red cows on one side and black cows on the other. And hey, for me, it's $1. Hey, if those are Angus and these are Angus, what's the difference? And, I doubted. So I painstakingly ate about 35 steaks. That does not sit well, okay? Let me just let you know, it does not. You think it's enjoyable, but it's not. So we sit through this, and we eat everything from grass-fed to started on grass, finished on this. We ate Holstein, we ate Hereford, we ate everything that I'm probably not supposed to tell you today. All of the cattle breeds. And it was amazing to me how these gentlemen right here, they opened up Beaumont. And I want you to understand that, there's 12 people right there? Every one of them wants to be there for you. Every one of them knows how important it is to cook a steak. All right? And I'm sorry, I'm going to keep interrupting, because I told my guys that it's my duty to make sure that you know who's cooking your steaks. And every time I talk about this, I dare you to come and see my restaurants. See how much meat we produce in a night. And you'll see as we rotate through these, our line is basically long. It's about 15 feet long. And we have drawers that we keep all the cut steaks on, all right? We will go, when you see it, you need to understand and remember that these drawers are full, and we will fill those drawers twice in a night. So we'll see on 12-ounce ribeyes, the ribeyes is our highest moving item. We sold roughly 1.5 million ribeyes last year. 1.5 million. So we just start from there, my oldest son. Golly, there's so much to talk about with y'all. I told myself that I was going to try and not talk so much about how much I love certified Angus beef, but I would have to stop and say, just sitting through the talks this morning and then this morning, just wow. To be able to take a blood drop and put it on the back of your phone. I mean, I was sitting in there, and I'm still, it's simple, but I'm amazed at the fluorescent or glow-in-the-dark ear tags. That's awesome. And then you got the insect repellent ear tag. This is when we struggled. That whole day was a struggle taking pictures. It was all for y'all. Amazing. I just can't imagine the technology that you're going to have and be able to use, and then whether you choose it or not, and then what 10 years is going to bring. I mean, 10 years in this business. The past 10 years has been a struggle personally for me, being in the meat business. We started out 10 years ago and the world was great. About 3 or 4 years into it, boom, we see our first price increase. Then it kind of falls back down and we don't hear anything about it. And 2 years later, boom, it hits again, and man, it hadn't gone down. And as somebody who understands, I see the price of corn go down. I watch the weather because I need to know what produce is doing. You know, I need to know if my tomatoes are going to be up because they're picking in Florida. You know, I want you to understand that if you don't think that people like myself don't have your best interest at heart, you are sadly, sadly mistaken. We understand. Now, what I will tell you, what I will beg you, is I need more cows. I need you to put more cows down. If you walk away with anything, you need to know we need more cows. Because I can't, we're selling some now, but we can sell a lot more. Look at a line. This is our line on a normal night at Saltgrass. Those tickets that you see, ooh, man, that's a good looking guy. The tickets that you see will go in rows of 20 at a time. So we'll have 20 or 30 tickets. The grills at Saltgrass are 15 feet long. Really, well, it depends. Some of them, you have an 8-foot grill, and then you have a 6-foot or a 10-foot grill. Imagine that, so let's say 16 feet of nothing but steaks. Nothing. You can fit on a 6-foot grill, you can fit about 30 ribeyes on that. How do I know that? Because I have seen that. I have been part of that. And it is not an enjoyable night when that happens. But that happens almost every single night. I mean, it's amazing to know through the constant education that we're given as chefs that you start looking at how the ribeye breaks down or how the tenderloin breaks down and how many pieces you get out of that. And then let's say out of a regular tenderloin, I get about 9 usable pieces out of that. And then there's 5 ounces of fall off that tenderloin, and those 5 ounces of fall off go into kebabs. 3 ounces goes into kebabs, and the rest of the fall off are in small pieces. It's about 2 ounces, quite honestly. That goes into my steak soup meat. So the sustainability or the yield makes every difference to me. Understanding how meat is ever changing. I remember the first time when I asked, hey, my steaks are coming in very fatty now. Why is it very fatty? You know, the ribeyes have this huge kernel fat on them. And my salesman looks at me in the eye and he goes, well, it's wintertime. And I'm like, yeah. He says, well, I mean, the cows are heavier now. They're putting on more fat and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, I don't get it. And it was from that point on that I realized that there was a whole lot of this beef business that I had no clue on. And to this day, I'm going to pretend like that's a true excuse, but it is one of the best excuses I've ever heard. So I'm going to stick that it actually worked. I mean, I tell people that, I'm telling you that now. So, you know, I'm amazed at some of the things and the ever-changing beef and even how it changes from animal to animal on the cows that we see. And you can see this one was really, and I say graded out well, or it has well marbling, and I look at this one and it doesn't have that great marbling, but man, it just ate well. How steaks from, quite honestly, a sirloin and a tenderloin sometimes just almost eat the same. I'm not a tenderloin guy, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a strip loin, and I like ribeyes, but I'd rather have a strip than anything else. But the sirloin eats sometimes as well as a tenderloin, and that doesn't happen in other aspects of the beef industry. I live in Houston, Texas, so I do the Houston rodeo, and a buddy of mine that we are in FFA together, or our kids are in FFA, but that's fathers feeding animals. We all know that. They raise, what do they raise? I'm drawing a blank now that I'm telling you the story. Let's just say they raise an inferior cow, so we don't have to name names, okay? And I help him do his annual party every year. And we feed about 150 people. They come from Japan and Mexico and all these places, and we take them out to their ranch, and they've got chuck wagons and stuff, and it's always a big joke with the 4 or 5 guys that cook. Oh, Chef Rick is here. How are those steaks? And you just sit there and you're eating these ribeyes. That's a great picture. This is a great picture representing what Saltgrass does. Just soak that in right there. Imagine the smell of that. And realize that that's only 10 minutes of our 8-hour day. And you've got about 5 hours of that right there. Can I get some more cows? Can I please get some more cows? All right. Anyway, so we're sitting there, and last year we cooked ribeyes for them again. And they were not bad. I'm not going to lie to you. They weren't bad. But I was only eating the spinalis, and they didn't know that. You know, and you're sitting there just not eating crow, but, you know, whatever. Oh, this is great. I'm knowing I'm just starving to death. But it's amazing to me, just again, and I'll constantly keep going over it, the difference of steaks. You know, I want to watch some of these pictures because they're just so awesome. I think these were sirloins when we cooked them. We sell the majority, Saltgrass sells sirloins like nobody's business. That's not our top seller, but it actually is, you know, to me, I call it, that's the poor man's ribeye. When you come in and you can't, oh man, at $2 more, I don't want it, but I'm going to get steak and shrimp, and I'll get a sirloin, and I'll get my shrimp or my lobster. These certified Angus beef back ribs, that is, to me, we did this, like 6 months ago on Mr. Langford's property. And, you know, they're a pound and a half a piece. And we started cooking them a day and a half early because they're so big, you know. And it was amazing to me how, quite honestly, when you eat a back rib, they're real fatty. They've got some fat in there. But I tell people, after you cook them for so long like this, that fat, it's if you could suck it through a straw, it's good. It can't be bad for you because it's too good to eat, you know? So that's my new thing, is back ribs. That's my new thing, back ribs. And then with this new position I've taken, I get to kind of put my arms around more things. So I'm focusing on sustainable, local, green. We're raising animals for the restaurant. We have gardens on premises. And, you know, I did a party last week for some very, very important people that we weren't, well, I'll tell you anyway, it doesn't really matter. We did a party for the president of the Ivory Coast, all right? And these chefs came in, that's a good picture too. These chefs came in, there were 4 or 5 of them, San Fran, you know, there was some from Florida, blah, blah, blah. And they bring in this Wagyu beef, and don't get me wrong, great marbling on it, you know, great marbling. But I'm sitting here and I've got my certified Angus beef that I had brought in, and they're all kind of certified Angus beef, you know, and I mean, that's fighting for me. I mean, again, I'm not trying to sell you a bill of goods here, but, you know, hey, dude, I don't know you. I want to take a moment. This is my brother-in-law. He runs 10,000 acres. We roped an alligator about 2 years ago. This is my claim to fame with John Stitka. We literally I did not, because I'm not a good roper, but he headed and healed an alligator while we were working heifers. All right? That's cool. To me, that's cool, you know. Now, I would tell you my brother-in-law I have one nephew, and they do not raise certified Angus beef. And you know, as obvious, that's the butt of all jokes with us. They raise the humpy cows, you know, because that brings them money. And I'm like, man, I'm not eating this steak, Michael. You know I'm not going to eat it. So he always cooks chicken because I'm just going to boycott eating any of his steaks. But hopefully I can transform him, because I tell my little nephew, like, hey, Ty, just think about Chef Uncle Rick and Ty, and think about certified Angus beef and all the marketing stuff we could have, man. We'd be famous. So this is another great cut. We made corned beef bacon. We actually did this for y'all when we were in Oregon. We did it with a poached quail egg on a Shiner Bock beer bread. Here's the picture. Look at all that meat. Each tray of that meat, or each tray, has roughly 30 steaks in it. So you got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, let's say 8 steaks, or 8 trays right there. And that'll last you probably half the night. I mean, that'll last you till 7 o'clock probably. And if you notice, we even stack our meat. Most of the times when you go to restaurants, meat is stacked like this. And I know that you might not care about this, but this is important. When you stack your meat like this, that top steak starts pressing down on that bottom steak, and that bottom steak just ends up getting flat. You're pressing the kernel fat out, or on the ribeye, you have the eye of the ribeye, then you have the spinalis, and that spinalis will start breaking off, okay? When that spinalis starts breaking off and it cooks on the grill, it just opens up and it might flip up, and that doesn't make for a good looking steak. So one of my cooks told me one time, he's like, hey chef, he wants you to start stacking all the meats because that's the way it should sit, and they press this up against each other. So you understand, you know, these are the people that take care of your product, you know. I just can't say enough. I'm so pleased to have good people working for me, and I think you should understand the people that continue your brand, you know, and don't doubt that, quite honestly. What else? I know I've talked a lot. Hope I haven't talked around anything. I was in Honduras this summer, and these are iguanas that we ended up catching and cooking. I have pictures I get to take. I take CAB stuff with me because, you know, there's nothing better than seeing a bunch of little third world kids loving on some CAB, hashtag CAB or rare CAB shirts. It's fun to go to these places and talk about, you know, I've been to Belize and Honduras and Guatemala and places like that, and you know, they all raise cattle. They all do something. But for them to understand what I do and how my world relates, no matter where we go, is always something that it's just, you know, it's heartwarming to me to be able to take what I've learned with certified Angus beef and through your products and promotions, and kind of take and continuously teach that to people. And I would have to tell you, you know, that over the past 10 years, being with Saltgrass and, you know, also connected with CAB, the things that you have allowed myself and my family to do, just whether you think it or not, I mean, we're together. You know, you need to understand that we do things, our two worlds are connected, whether you like it or not. You know, I'm going to end, and then we're going to have a Q&A, but I want to end with the one thing that I said earlier, is that you work on your 22 months, and I'm going to work on my 10 minutes. That's my guarantee to you, okay? So y'all keep doing what you're doing, and I'm going to keep doing what I have to do to make it great for y'all. All right? Thank you.
Let's share our appreciation. Great job, Rick. I've got to clarify one thing with you, though, Rick, in terms of your message. John Sticka headed and healed an alligator?
No.
Oh, okay, good, because
Lord,
I feel
no.
a lot better, because there wouldn't be as much left of him today as if he had and healed who headed?
He likes the picture so much.
Oh, he likes the picture.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
That I can believe. Hey, you've spent a lot of time, Rick, in terms of being on cattle operations, starting in Montana. You talked about being with Jim Sitz and his wife Tammy and their mother Donna, hosted for all that photography work you saw. Curious, what was the most takeaway message for you? Because these producers sitting here would be interested in what your real takeaway was as you visited their ranch, and of course you've been to Steve and Ginger's ranch in Hereford, Texas, you said a couple times. What really struck you as you visited these operations, maybe that you didn't expect or that you wanted to learn? What was your takeaway?
And that's hard to, well, first and foremost, it was family. The whole family is involved, you know, and that was, my wife actually went with me up to Montana, and she was amazed at just how encompassing everything is. What did I take away from it? You can never get away from, no matter how many times I do these conversations, and it's the dedication, and so many times I want to make sure that you understand I'm speaking to you in a way that this is how I speak to anybody, and it's the dedication that you have and what you have to go through to get that product to us. And I would have to say that's probably the biggest thing, and yeah, the dedication.
And I think one of the things I've heard you folks say so many times is how family-orientated agriculture is. You almost always come away, you started there, and that's one of the most, I'd say, of all the groups we've taken, Rick, they come away, it's amazing. This is truly a husband, wife, children, parents, grandpa and grandma. These are generational type operations, and I think we take that for granted in the beef industry, but to those of you that come out of really the food side of the industry, that's unique. Let me go another different direction. You said a very key point. We totally agree with you. We need more cattle, so when you go home, expand that operation. We definitely need more cattle in the beef industry in general, and we want those to be Angus cattle and producing the kind of beef that Rick loves to cook. Be a little more specific in anything on the product side, anything that comes to mind that either concerns you or you would compliment the group, more to the product side rather than pure numbers and pure tonnage. Any comments you would make to the group?
Say that one more time. Because that's a couple answers actually for
yeah,
me.
Okay. On the product side, as you take that steak out and you prepare it, that could be everything, Rick, from size concerns that you have, amount of fatness that you concern, any variability in marbling levels that concern you, variability in cut weights. What are some of the things that, as a chef, putting a steak on the table for that really do relate back to the production sector?
I would tell you that, this is a tricky road, I know, but size of the cows affects me more than anything, okay? And here's why. Ribeyes are America's favorite. When we started expanding at Saltgrass, we went from just being in Texas to basically Chicago and the East Coast in areas. And they're like, oh, people in Tennessee, they like strip loins. And we don't see that. We see ribeye as the king, quite honestly, okay? I would say that the size of cattle getting bigger is the biggest chef's concern because it's twofold. A bigger cow doesn't necessarily mean a bigger protein. It means that they have more fat on them in certain areas, and a bigger cow means I'm getting a bigger ribeye. And we're not raising smaller cows now, because used to you would get the 13.5s or 15.5s and down rib rolls, and now we're getting really 16.5s and ups, which means that ribeye went from about this big to about that big, which means I cut my steak thinner. And then people go, why am I getting a small steak? Well, it's the same size, ounce-wise, it just doesn't have the plate coverage. And that's what people look at. They eat it to what's on that plate. That's why everybody likes to eat chicken fried steak. Yeah. That and the white gravy, but I would definitely say the concern of the amount of fat that you see in it, and then just the size of cattle. But I fully understand, and we were talking about this last night, if I was you, I'd raise bigger cows too. I'd totally want more pounds because that's what I get paid for. I was sitting in the conversations today, and I ran back and asked a gentleman that I knew would know just some questions about the animal health and the husbandry. Well, hey, if he's doing this, why couldn't you, or is it going to eventually evolve into this? I like to see the technology because it helps you and then really in turn helps me, but I don't worry about much, but I think about what it will do to the overall business end of how our two worlds relate.
And part of our job as a brand, Rick, is to work with you as chefs in how to use the larger cuts in some of those. Yeah. And that's something that we're working on all the time because that is a trend in the industry. Another thing.
Can I say something real quick?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're a bunch of fancy chefs and I got together, and I'm not fancy at all, so we'll just get that straight. And we have a cow. Dr. Phil allowed us to break a whole cow down, which is a chef's dream. So we have this beef hanging, and there's like 4 or 5 chefs, and there's this one chef, Cedric from New York, and I love him to death. He weighs like 110 pounds, fully clothed, the little French dude. And then there's Craig Deal in the Carolinas, and there's me, and that's really the spectrum. I want a lot of meat. Cedric wants, my customers only want the ribeye and the strip and the tenderloin, and then there's Craig that takes all these things and puts them together. And we're sitting there talking, and Craig is like he's just this freak of how he comes up with things in his head. He makes a lot of sausages and stuff. And he's like, oh, well, I would take the bavette and I'd blah, 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 and I'd do this and that. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, I don't even know what that is. I don't know what the bavette is. And they start talking about it, and me over here in the corner, I go, that's a chicken fried steak. I get it. I'd sell that for $9.99 all day, and he's talking about how he'd sell it for $22.99 all day. And just the scope of the chefs in that room made me laugh, and I always tell that story, and they never get it because, they're thinking over here, and I'm thinking over here, and, it's just, to me, it's hilarious how each one of those chefs, and even the chefs in the pictures that you see, how the difference that we bring to the table when we have ideations and talking about using other cuts of meat. That was what we were there for, to look at that cow. Look, you know what to do with the middle meats. The middle of the cow is easy to come up with. The end of the cow is pretty easy because you got the sirloin right there and you can deal with that. But that front part of the cow is where we as chefs and the people in my industry are trying to focus on things. And, there's meat geeks out there that just think of this muscle. And it's amazing to me that there's somebody out there that looks at this muscle and tears that muscle apart and then sees that there's 6 different kinds in there. Different muscles, and each application is different. I wouldn't say I've struggled, but I think the people struggle to understand a different cut of meat because they're so in tune to what they want when they get there. And that was quite honestly a struggle for me the past couple years. I want something different. I know something different is out there, but nobody's figured it out yet. But when they do, I won't say it's going to revolutionize the world, but hey man, it's definitely going to open something up. But recutting a ribeye and making it an eye and throwing the spinalis into an appetizer isn't our answer. We have to come up with what we're going to do with that front shank of the cow that's going to make somebody happy and want to buy it. And I think the Craig Deals of the world and those higher end restaurants are definitely going to have that before I get to it. But we need the movement, because I talk about 140,000 head of cattle, man, I move some black cows, but they really need to get better at this bavette cut or taking some of those things. And we all need to do a better job of trying to find another steak, but it's really making the people, the other people of the world, besides the ones that are in this room, understand that as well.
Great message. So your take home here is when you go to your local restaurant, wherever that is, if that's in rural America, and you place an order, I want to see how it works and report back to us when you order a bavette with that waitress. I kind of want to get a little feedback as to what reaction you got.
Yeah. And, chicken fried steak.
Yeah, you bet. Hey, a last question, Rick. We've seen a tremendous change in the beef industry in your career, but in certainly the last 3 to 4 years in price. Talk to us a little bit about some trends that you think are occurring relative to how price of these strips, of these sirloins, what is it changing at the restaurant level in terms of how you put that beef out in front of folks, and what are you thinking about as a chef in terms of what do I have? Okay, this is a more expensive product. What do I really do to still keep that beef in front of that consumer?
Great question. That is the past 2 years, it's been huge in our business. I would tell you, knowing what I know from Saltgrass to the other big, and I don't want to say chain restaurants, but anything above Saltgrass usually is because of the numbers, you start seeing we're just not passing that price on to the guest, quite honestly. And that doesn't last more than about a year and a half. And let's just speak hypothetically. 2 years ago, we saw our first price increase, big price increase, and we tweaked our numbers. We made, 59s, 99s, and we made 12s, 13s, so it's not that different. But then as a chef, you start having to add what we call value to the plate. In some restaurants that works. You can, for Saltgrass, and I'm going to speak for Saltgrass, you get a plate, you get a steak, and you get a choice on one side, and you get a salad. So for me to add some kind of little something on the side, it just doesn't make sense for us because we're simple. Saltgrass is a great restaurant because it takes simple product and just moves on. But you're going to see, and you're seeing prices coming up. People just can't. We in the restaurant business cannot keep eating the cost that's coming. But I know I know you're probably losing market shares to the other two meats, but people are always going to eat beef. You know, and that's the thing. If you're in the beef business or in you know, the beef restaurant business, you see that really what you see is in the course of a month, the people that used to come from, you know, once a week to, you know, 3 times a month, you start seeing them come twice now. And then the gentleman who, you know, I always joke that the great thing about Saltgrass is you would see somebody in a business suit and then you would see somebody in a pair of coveralls. And just those two worlds combine so easily. And the gentleman in the coveralls might not be getting that ribeye anymore. He's going to get the sirloin with a steak and shrimp versus just the ribeye. You know, where the business guy is not, they're not writing that off anymore because businesses know now, hey, how much things are, and they're controlling their costs more. So you'll see, I think we see a reduction of beef sizes. You know, you take like a 9-ounce sirloin and it goes to an 8 now because there's an ounce off there, but the price stays the same. But the challenge that, again, that we have is that we have to add value to that plate to make that $19.99 sirloin okay. When you sit down and eat it, you don't walk away and go, man, that was 19 bucks. I could have bought that from the grocery store, you know, and done it myself. But if it was so bad, why do they keep coming back? So, I mean, we're blessed that they keep coming back, but I think that's what you'll see, long story short.
Folks, let's give a great Angus family appreciation. Rick Rosser, thank you so much for being with us.
Now, I have one last thing to do. I totally want to take a selfie with y'all. Can I take a selfie with everybody? Can I take a selfie with everybody?
Yes.
This is a big deal. Hold on. You want to come get in the picture? Come on, let's take a selfie.
Okay, we'll do it together.
Let's take a selfie. All right. There we go.
All right.
Thank y'all.
Rick, I got to admit, I have to work a little on the vocabulary, what a selfie always means. But, you know, I'm now learning, so hang with me. Hey, we're at noon break. It's time to spend a little time in the trade show, find a little bit of fine beef product that you're going to have out there.